Good morning, everyone. This is yours truly, CR, and welcome to another Artcast. This is just a little sketch of Babs Bunny working out that I had sitting around and decided to ink and color it. So there we have it. Again, big fan of Dan Haskett, and I was very influenced by his a sort of off-model take on. There you go. He's got sort of this off-model take on Babs that, many of the poses worked into the show, but for the most part, the eyes are the biggest difference. I was going to say on model, Babs has these, round irises, and they're either blue, depending on what production company works on. They're either blue or they're purple. I like purple, which you'll see later on. The legs are way too long now that I look at it, and even when I was inking it, but it's a fun little pose, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll shake some rust off and get that done. Oh, I also recently discovered a podcast called What a Cartoon. I found it the other day when on Matt McMuscle's Twitter feed. He was a guest star when they talked about street sharks. Oh boy, these weeds, they really implanted themselves. I've been gone for about 2 weeks. There we go. But anyway, it's like a really good show. They go over the histories of... they tend to focus on certain episodes, but then they'll give an overview on the entire history of a cartoon. And they will often focus on the first episode of a series. If it's one they're not particularly excited about. They weren't really excited to talk about Street Sharks. They were, but they weren't. It was like, oh, this is going to be so horrible. And they had fun pointing out all the weird animation flaws and just kind of the bizarre history of this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles ripoff. But getting back to Tiny Toons, they mentioned something that really stuck with me and kind of explained why I prefer Tiny Toons over Animaniacs, even though I have to admit that Animaniacs is probably the better series in terms of both production and in, higher, lasting comedy appeal. Because the Tiny Toons was very much a product of its time. It focused on that certain humor and that certain aesthetic of the 90s. So, what it came down to is someone said, well, I like Tiny Toons more because I think the characters are more defined. And I was like, oh, okay, that totally makes sense. Because when you're watching Animaniacs, it's not like the Warners don't have defined personalities. But for the most part, they kind of function as a group. You've got Yakko, who's a fast talker. You got Dot, who is also kind of a fast talker and also capable of pretty much anything Yakko can do. She's a little bit more conceited and self-absorbed. I'm cute, I'm adorable, So that's her quirk. But for the most part, she can just she uses wordplay like Yakko. And then, Wacko. You've got Wacko then, who is, a little bit slower on the uptake, a little bit more, what was I going to say? I was going to say primal, but that's not the word. A little bit more base urge with his, eating habits and just kind of, he's more impulse than, say, Yakko or Dot. And then you look at Tiny Toons, and these... I still say to this day, Buster really doesn't have a personality. He's basically Bugs Bunny kind of updated a little bit, but also worse. I always liked Babs because she had more of an identity and more of just a sense of she knew what she was doing. I always go back to that a couple episodes where Buster gets in the middle of something and it's like, oh, what do I do? And Bugs Bunny has to like reach through the TV and say, here's what you do. You do the thing that, any cartoon character would do. Babs, on the other hand, she just had like a really strong character and a really good motivation. In the series, she wanted to be a good comedian. That was an issue that came up constantly. She was always getting impressive scores in school because she was like so driven to like for comedy. And also a lot of the landmarks of the series involve her, at least the ones I remember. Like, let's see, you have the Robin Williams episode. That's one of the things where it really displayed that, she wants to be a really good comedian. And she basically goes to a comedy club and tries her best. And then she, unfortunately, goes right after the Robin Williams analog, whose voice was provided by a wonderful performance by Maurice LaMarche. I swear, I swore that was Robin Williams. And why wouldn't it be? I mean, well, no, this was before Hook. So, I guess they wouldn't have worked on this. But no, I mean, Steven could have gotten anyone he wanted. And if he said, hey, Robin Williams, do you want to be on my cartoon? I'm sure Robin would have jumped at it. But anyway, Maurice LaMarche did a fantastic job on it, and it was like a really funny but also sincere moment where he, in the short, Robin didn't mean to sandbag Babs. He thought he was the last one going on, so he kind of went out and knocked him dead, and then you've got Babs who comes out afterwards. Oh, and there's the line that's the best. It's the best, like, mentor line in the whole series. It's like, I know what it's like to be a struggling comedian. Hell, I used to perform at the openings of Letters. I always thought that was just really sweet. And then you've got where she becomes the queen of Wacky Land because Acme Acres is even too bland for her. Or just too bland for her. She can't, she doesn't feel appreciated for her comedic expertise. How she's constantly on. And then she goes to a place where they're all constantly on and it gets really, really obnoxious. Then you've got like the episode where she tries to find a mentor like Buster has with Bugs. I say Bugs should have ditched Buster and said, oh, I'll teach this girl. She knows what's up. And then you got the episode, one where she like spends the whole episode trying to find a mentor and revive, basically, I think it's Betty Boop. I was mistaken one episode. I thought that Foxy and Roxy and whoever their buddies were, like, I thought they were like original characters from that the Tiny Toons crew had just made up. There's an episode where Buster and Bugs try to revive these other older Toons' careers. Two-Tone Town, I believe it's called. To show you how dated Tiny Toons really is, there was a Duck Hawkson, which was a play on Hawk. You know when Bruce Willis tried to make that movie, that kind of comedic action musical? Let's see, what timing is this? This is around 9:37. I'll have to write that down. Let me get a pen. Here we go. I'll put in a visual there. Oh, I learned a program in OBS that lets me do timestamps, so that'll make Let's Plays go a lot faster. But anyway, there's a a bit about that, and it's just like I didn't know what it was when it was what it was. And now, in retrospect, I kind of know what it is, but most people don't know what Duck Hodgson is, or what that would be a play on. But anyway, I mistook those original I thought they were original characters when they were really older, established characters, just from like the 1920s. So I don't know if the Betty Boop analog was an actual character that was just like an actual ripoff of Betty Boop at the time. There's so many clones running around. Tiny Toons itself was a clone of Muppet Babies, of course. But let's see what else. Oh, and Loon Lake was always a personal favorite of mine because it's just like there were not a lot of Loon cartoons, Shirley Loon, and so to have one where she was actually good at something, I guess dancing, it's something a little bit more established and grounded than her psychic abilities. And when those swans bully her and Babs comes and helps her, I was just that one always stuck to me as both sincere and funny. I think in the podcast they said that Tiny Toons has higher highs but also lower lows. And that's the truth, I think. Because I remember being like really bored watching some Tiny Toons episodes. And Animaniacs was consistently good for most of the time. But also, yeah, you get like a with Animaniacs, you're also kind of spread out across this whole cast of like characters, and you're probably saying to yourself, well, what's the difference between that and Tiny Toons? Well, I think Tiny Toons has a little bit more. How can I put this? The premise for all the characters is the same. They are all littler versions of Looney Tunes that are going to the same school. And they have adventures in this one town with this one school. They can go to different places and do different things, but for the most part, it's like the premise is straightforward. When you're watching Animaniacs, you gotta literally have the theme song for every like different character set. I can't tell you how many times I've heard the Hip Hippos theme song and just kind of deflated. I think that might be like one of my least favorite Animaniacs segments. Other than the one with the giraffe, I think that one was like the best one of the Hip Hippos. Other than that, I just kind of like, no. That one, and well, let's see, what else? Slappy Squirrel was always a winner. Let's see, there was Slappy Squirrel. You see, I'm struggling to even like remember. I mean, Minerva Mink was only in 2 shorts before they cut her off, so that's nothing. And then she was relegated to cameos for the rest of her career. Which, by the way, if you want more Minerva Mink, go find the comics. They're great. She actually kind of has a personality in them. She's like a really bad punster in one, and I wish that trait would carry over more. What else can I say? I'm trying to think of more Animaniacs segments. Also, you'd have episodes where they'd go to... Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, the plot is a little bit more streamlined because you have some episodes where the the Warners go on their own. You have some episodes where they're like in psychiatric care, and then you have other episodes where they're running around the lot. It just, I don't know. Like I just said, I think the Tiny Toons is a little bit more streamlined. It's way more pedestrian in its views. It's basically, like I said, Tiny Toons, but they're kids. I mean, Looney Tunes, but they're kids. But I think that like when they had episodes, they either had episodes that were one long arc, or just like either clumped up into 2 different or 3 different episodes, or shorts. I'm trying to think of episodes that were actually like one 15-minute chunk and another 15-minute chunk, but I can't think of any. I'm pretty sure that they were in 3 different portions. For the most part. Come on. God, why did I wait so long? The ground is so hard. There we go. But anyway, yeah, that's the What a Cartoon podcast. It's like really, really good. I'm going to listen to some of it after I get this done. I've also compressed this down to 30 minutes. I think I'm going to do that a little more because my internet is so shit out here, especially with everyone using it, getting on it right now all day. Anything over an hour takes like literal hours to like encode and put up on YouTube. But 30 minutes, like, it's fine. YouTube doesn't have any problem with it, like for anything that I've been making. So I think I'm going to go with shorter videos more often. And coming up with this little color scheme, I think that's, yeah, you can see where I'm pulling from. I'm pulling from actual screenshots. I will say that Animaniacs had a smoother production line. I think they, when Tiny Toons was starting, they were still with Fox Kids, and they were, in fact, that's why they had the Plucky Duck show. I think they made the Plucky Duck show in order to get around some sort of contract restrictions that said that Fox Kids had access to Looney Tunes. So that's what they did. You know, that's weird. I mean, they made the Plucky Duck show, and they ran that on WB. But then years later, Nickelodeon they owned the rights to show Looney Tunes, like early in the morning. And I thought that was weird because they also had the rights to their own shows. And at this time, Warner Brothers was also trying to figure out what to air in like the morning. So why didn't you just air reruns of the show that you own already? And just like, I would have gotten up and watched old episodes of... They could have called it just like the classic morning block or something. And just rerun shows that you own in the morning. I would have loved to gotten up and just watched like old episodes of Doug on Nickelodeon, or old episodes of, Tiny Toons on the WB. Or just like put it on during a Sunday. They used to have crap shows on Sundays. Oh, that's right. I got a little ambitious with this one and decided to actually color the background, or paint a background, really. Again, working with those new pens that I created with different various thicknesses and opacities. Oh, but getting back to what I was saying about the production, there were so many studios working on Tiny Toons that it got... I mean, of course, there's TMS, which is the golden standard. At the time, they did stuff like... They did amazing things for, like, Cyber 6 and the Wuzzles, I think they were worked on. I know they worked on... what was it? Bionic 6. They even did that sort of There was an episode of Bionic 6. It was the last episode. And you can tell they just went really hog wild. Because it was an episode where they went to a kind of cartoon land that it's that old staple. Like a creator goes to his own world that he created. That was the plot of Cool World. That was the plot of another episode of Ghostbusters. Where the creator the Ghostbusters actually went into a cartoon world, although I don't think they changed their style. That would have been cool. Oh, that reminds me. Watch Phalus's April Fool's Day video on the old Ghostbusters, the Good Times old Ghostbusters. I think he got Happy Time Harry to animate some segments for him. It was like really hilarious. What was I gonna say? And then you had Kennedy Cartoons, who also did that weird wonky dance that Kennedy Cartoons always does, and then you've got just a bunch of different other various studios. So the style was like it varied from show to show, even from within its own episodes. It would like get really off kilter. I want to see which episode is or which segment is paired with the Loon Lake episode, because I don't think the rest of the episode looks as good as that one, which was animated by TMS. But that just reminded me, looking at all those different screenshots, is like, oh yeah, that's really kind of, there was a gambit to what kind of style you would be getting. Animaniacs had that too. Not every Animaniacs looked gorgeous. One of my favorite episodes that should have been really, really boring was the parking meter ticket episode, or the segment of Animaniacs. I was like, oh, I watch it over and over again sometimes, and I think, God, this is actually like really, really boring. And if it weren't animated as gorgeously as it was, I wouldn't enjoy it half as much. But TMS brought their A game, and there's some like really dynamic. The best joke in that segment is where there's a parking meter lady, and she like drives into the court, and she does this little gingerly hop over the what do you call that little gate that they have? I don't know what you call that. But anyway, she does a little gingerly hop, and it's just, I don't know, it's the execution that sells it more than anything. Yeah, you can tell she looks really off without the purple around her eyes, which I will add towards the end of the video. Oh God, I hope there's not a leak here. Oh yeah, did I ever say? I don't think I ever put the video in. I'll put that in now. I recorded some where there was a leak going out from underneath. Remember all the bricks and everything? Yeah, I'll put that in like maybe here at 2:30 or 2:03. Where's my 2:32? Pardon me. I gotta keep this pin handy. I left it all the way over there when I was moving. Great, I gotta look. Is there even a way to add any more to this crap? Let's see. Maybe if I put... No, it's just all too much already. But anyway, there was a huge leak. Had to remove the brick and then gingerly reposition the brick. That was a huge pain in the ass. Because you have to like pack it with sand, but if you pack too much sand with it, then the bricks won't fit together again. And they just shift naturally. And then you got to take a hammer, but you got to have a towel when you pack the bricks back in, because if you just hammer the bricks in, they'll shatter. Ugh. Anyway, I know this is horribly off model, but I'm actually really happy with the final result of this. I mean, the painted background is nice. I think I learned a little bit of a lesson where if you want to have the main character pop, just desaturate the background a little bit. I did that with a title card I was working on the other day. I was like, I want the main character to pop out. I also learned that when you're making title cards, just like make a new window and shrink the title card down to the size of an actual title card that would pop up on YouTube. Because that really helps when you're thinking about eye-grabbing visuals. Yeah, I can tell I watered everything over here because all the weeds are popping up easy. And I've got some few more sketches I could do. I did another one of the Bibette, the skunk girl that only showed up like one episode. No, not one episode. It was in How I Met Your How I Met Your Summer How I Spent My Summer Vacation. I was going to say, you don't see a lot of drawings of. There's another character like that, and when it was Buster, that's another good episode. But anyway, when Babs left to be on the sort of legitimate TV, 40 something or 16 something or whatever, the Melrose Place analog for Tiny Toons, the one that made fun of Trump at the time, because he was even a broke piece of shit back then. There was he was holding auditions, and there was that one like purple rabbit girl. You don't see a lot of fan art of the purple rabbit girl with the magenta, would you say? She's not like purple like Fifi. She's more like a red purple. So I guess that would be a magenta. You don't see a lot of fan art of them together, which I've seen plenty of fan art of them separately. They're just like, that's weird. You think there'd be like just something. I've seen a ton of fan art of the Crash Racers, the five girls. The Crash Bandicoot thing. I don't know any of their names or anything, but I've just seen tons and tons of artwork of them. And that just reminded me. It was like, oh, okay, there's obviously a reason why these characters are very, very popular. For the longest time, I didn't know why Coco was overshadowing Crash's girlfriend in terms of popularity, but I guess at some point she portrayed Crash. I didn't know that. Didn't have a PlayStation. Didn't play the games. Ask me anything about Ratchet and Clank and Jak and Daxter, and I will know. Because I ate up those games for their story. And their gameplay. I thought it was pretty cool. I think I enjoyed Jak and Daxter more than I enjoyed Ratchet and Clank. But I don't know. Actually, Jak and Daxter had better stories. Ratchet and Clank had better gameplay with their different weapons, and you could save up and get a really special thing and do some really crazy stuff. But anyway, that's all Naughty Dog, right? I think it is. Oh, Hardcore Gaming is another podcast I just discovered. You should check them out. Let's see, 920. Okay, there we go. Yeah, check them out. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I discovered What a Cartoon when Wooly was the guest star. He was the guest star in the most recent episode. They talked about Reboot, and the Pacific specific episode was Firewall. And they had Wooly, and he was expounding all the virtues of Reboot. And then I would look in their back catalog, and that's when I found that Matt McMuscles had done a Street Sharks episode. And then also he was on a episode of Hardcore Gaming, where they basically talk about a video game and then just rank it amongst like every video game ever. Like they actually have a list, like with at least 500 games on it, and they try to figure out where it would go in when they talk about a new game. I think Turtles in Time was like, I don't know, it wasn't high on the list. No, wait, I'm sorry, not Turtles in Time. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, The Manhattan Project, the one with the floating island, on the NES. But anyway, that's a good podcast too. I've been kind of binging that one, pacing myself a little bit though. But anyway, check that one out. Check out What a Cartoon. Those are really good. Yeah, basically. And there's the final product of Babs. Yeah, it's off model. The ears are a little too big. The legs are way too long. That one leg is really skinny, but I just don't know. There's just something I like about the pose and I like about the background that just came out really, really nice. I added some shading around the cheeks and the tail when you guys weren't looking, but yeah, I'm just kind of happy with this one. Oh well, anyway, with that, I will see you all next time. Also, we're going to be doing some live episodes once I get some equipment set up, and hopefully some faster internet soon. So anyway, take care of yourselves, stay safe, goodbye.